All right, awesome. I hope everybody can hear me. Let me double check. All right, awesome. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the BNS Studios Ask Me Anything event here on Discord. A few ground rules. Please be sure to follow all of our guidelines here. You can find them up in the BNS edicts. Please be polite and respectful so we can get this event underway. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Tonight, we have actually a little bit of a surprise. We have not just one speaker, but we have two. We have Ryan, our president, as well as Chris, our content director, and they will be joining us shortly. And other than that, I think we're about ready to go. Remember, everyone, keep all of your questions and comments separate. We want our questions in the AMA questions chat, and all of your comments, you're free to talk over in our community channel. Be sure to be tuned in here, though, so that way everyone can hear what's going on. This call is going to be recorded so that we can post it on our YouTube later, but thank you so much for joining us. Chris and Ryan, if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Sure. I'll go ahead and start. I'm Ryan Autry. I'm the president of BNS Studios.
My name is Chris, and I am the director of content for BNS Studios.
Awesome. And if you guys want to get started on some of the first questions here.
Sure. So the first question is from Shadow King 00. And the question is, with now 2 full days plus the remainder of today left in August, will announced August 2020 release for Changeling be made? Will it indeed be released before or on Monday? And the answer to that question is we are finalizing layout today and tomorrow. And the answer is yes, it will be released on Monday. Ryan, you want to do the next question?
Yeah, absolutely. So what have y'all learned in working on Changeling that you wish or plan to backport into Vampire or Werewolf? Unfortunately, this is a question I'm going to have to toss back to you, Chris.
I think the answer to that question is, in working on Changeling, we identified certain things that we wanted to modernize from the prior books. So there were some ways that flaws were labeled and some systems that we felt could be updated in order to better reflect society and to be more sensitive to those things.
It looks like the next question is, does BNS have any plans to adapt the LARP to V5 setting to bring it in line with the new edition? If so, is there anything that can be discussed about these plans? Speaking broadly, the answer is that I think it would be very good for BNS Studios to have those sorts of plans, but if we did, nothing could be discussed about them at this time. Chris, you want to take one?
Sure. The next question is, do we have an actual release date for V2 Omnibus? The answer to that question is no, we do not have an actual release date yet for V2 or other vampire material, but we can tell you that that is our next project. We've been working on Vampire for some time. We stopped working on Vampire to shift to Changeling to meet customer demands and club demands to get Changeling out. So again, we're very excited that Changeling will be released on August 31st. So in 2 days, Changeling will be out, and then we're going to turn back to Vampire. And our hope is to have Vampire material out this year.
So it says, the next one is, what are your secrets, wizard? What is the key to eternal life? Thank you, Kalindal. I'm going to answer that with a kind of an aside about one of my favorite podcasts, which is Hardcore History. In his Rise of the Mongols, this very question was one that Genghis Khan brought a Tibetan monk to try and answer. And the Tibetan monk replied with what I will answer you, Kalindal, is that there is no potion of eternal life. But if you eat a little less red meat and sleep alone sometimes away from the harem, you will live longer. So, Chris.
The next question is, what clan, kith, and tribe do you see yourself as? I'll go first, and I'll punt it over to Ryan. My favorite clan's always been the Bale, because I personally feel they're misunderstood. For kith, I'm going to say the Selkies, and yes, the Selkies are a kith in the upcoming book. They're not under the puka. They're back to being a full separate kith. And I really am torn to pick a tribe, quite honestly. So I'm going to punt it back to Ryan.
I would say, for clan, I've been given quite a few different options, but I would say probably Vintru is most likely. Kith, I'm only really familiar with the Shi, and for tribe, my favorite is the Silverfang.
The next question is about Nordic LARP, and it says Nordic LARP is getting more and more popular in the West with official White Wolf events using the Nordic model and Nordic LARPs, namely Entertainment and Blood, getting shout out in V5 official rules. Do you think Nordic style play is compatible with campaign games and not just one shots? And the second part of the question is, BNS already has an essay on Nordic LARP in its supplements, but are there any future plans to experiment with Nordic style LARP principles in BNS material? I'm going to actually let Ryan answer that one.
I'm going to answer it some way the way I answered Necrologist's first question, which was on V5, and saying that I think it would be very, very wise if By Night Studios were to be looking at Nordic style principles, trying to incorporate them in our material, but there's nothing we could really comment upon it today. Do I think it is compatible with campaign games and not just one shots? I think that it has a lot of challenges in being adapted for a campaign style game. And the reason I say that is because ultimately there's going to come a scenario where two people are going to disagree. And you can either have a lot of faith in your storyteller to hash that out in the Nordic style, or you can default to the rules as written in the books. And I think that what you'll find is when you're outside of a one shot, when you have folks that are developing their own characters, that are invested in their own characters, that don't necessarily have always the play to lose mindset that is so beneficial in Nordic LARP, I think that you will find that the more MET approach is more successful. Let's jump on to a next question. So within the BNS wheelhouse, there have been certain sponsored events that have been conducted down in the States. These events have been well received from all accounts heard by myself. What are the chances that there will be an MES-style grand meta plot that is established and run in North America? A la MES, but perhaps on a longer time frame or a yearly event schedule. So I assume that we mean primarily a BNS-run grand meta plot. I would say that the chances of that are fairly low. With respect to what BNS has done in the past, we've had our Blood and Betrayal events, which have had their own sort of personal plot to them. They have affected the meta plot in our games, but I don't see us as having plans currently to orchestrate a series, a circuit of events that will advance that forward. Would you say that's fair, Chris?
Yes, I would say that's accurate. The next question, any chance we'll see a print version of the new Dreaming or upcoming Vampire books when released? So, as I think you're all aware, Changing the Dreaming is going to be released in the Storyteller Vault. The way that Changing the Dreaming is currently laid out, when you look at the book in a PDF, you can look at it side by side, page by page, and you'll see that it's designed to be read as an actual book where you can flip through the pages. You'll see the border runs around both pages, sort of like a giant horizontal rectangle. So It's designed that way, but at this point, we do not have concrete plans to have it available in the near future as a printable book. Anything you want to add to that, Ryan?
No, I think that's the simplest answer to it is that under the current Storytellers Vault, we're simply not able to create a printable book for Changeling, and if that ever changes, we'll be, uh, prompt in letting the community know and incorporate it into our plans.
As far as the Vampire products are concerned, we have not made a decision on that. That discussion is still happening.
That's fair. So, why are the age-based statuses in the Camarilla, Elder, and Ancilla positional instead of innate? They derive from innate qualities of the character, generation and age, and being able to claim only one source of positional status, I assume we mean abiding, where positions don't as much or as useful status as just being an elder. His favorite example being Primogen lacking the confirmed status cannot freely speak to their fellow Primogen. Time ago by by Jason Andrew. We don't want to have all of the specialness of any one person dominate the game overall. So playing an elder is a big enough deal that perhaps they would let their neonate representative serve as the Primogen, even though that's not really the long-term name of it. It's all with this concept of sharing the cool, so to speak. Chris.
Okay. The next question. Sorry, I'm trying to find where it is here. The next question is: do you have any recommendations for good resources to make LARP events disability available? Let me say that one more time. Do you have any recommendations for good resources to make LARP events disability accessible? That's actually, I think that's a very interesting question, because as a community, as a gaming community, we really want to be inclusive of everybody, and we want to make sure that everybody can access our events and participate. I know that when we had discussed running a BNS event earlier in the year that unfortunately had to get canceled or rescheduled, I should say, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and then from the rescheduled date had to get canceled, we were very mindful of making sure that we selected venues that were inclusive and accessible to everyone. As far as resources are concerned, I think as a community, because we want to be welcoming, the best resource you have is the person that's running that game. And disability is such a broad term, and it means many, many different things. So it's hard to say what resources could be available to make accommodations without knowing what someone's specific disability is. But my recommendation would be to have a communication beforehand with the storyteller or the event coordinator that's hosting that event, to reach out to them, to make sure that they know that you intend to be there and that accommodations are put in place. Because again, as a community, we should want to help each other and want everybody to participate in this activity. And I think communication is probably the best tool that we have to ensure inclusivity. Anything you want to add, Ryan?
No, I think you covered it very well. So the next question that I see here is, can you give specifics of how the virtual premium BNS game Miami by Night LARP will work? Is it voice or video or something else? So the premium game that is in beta test presently is all text-based. The premise of the game is that anyone, anywhere, and any time will have access to an excellent mind's eye theater experience. And our reasoning is that voice and video would exclude some people from that possibility of being able to participate in the game in the way that text would not. Not everybody has a working webcam and microphone to be able to get on, or the specific times of day that would be necessary to schedule that. So to answer, how does it work? At present, the beta test works that you suggest that you're interested, you join the Gilded server, an ST log is set up for you, and you submit a character. Your character is then worked with by the storytelling staff who are paid in order to get involved in the game. Then on a bi-weekly basis, games are scheduled, as well as kind of concurrent ongoing plot scenes are run throughout the week. Jumping to the next question, it looks like this is one that I'm not sure that we're going to be able to answer, but I'm going to answer it in a roundabout way, which is, in the original VTM, gangrel animal traits were a permanent feature, causing the player to use a more strategic mindset to move around the masquerade. What was the thought process in changing it to a temporary feature? And that's from Remy. Remy, the simple answer is I don't know. My team took over By Night Studios from the former team last year in late November. We do have some team members that have carried on from the old team, but I wasn't involved in the room when that decision was made, and so simply can't answer it.
Okay, the next question is, any plans on the future for Demon the Fallen or Laws of the Hunt BNS book? Not asking for dates, just to know if it's on your board at all. The answer is we haven't taken off the board. we're still exploring what other systems for under the Paradox umbrella that we're interested in pursuing, or the World of Darkness umbrella that we're interested in pursuing. We do, as I stated earlier, intend to move on from Changeling back to Vampire, but we certainly have not ruled out Demon, and we have discussed Demon in other systems as well.
Jumping just to add a little bit more to that, I would just like to say that a rising tide lifts all boats. So as the most popular systems of Mind's Eye Theater reach the heights that perhaps they had in the late 90s, which is our overall goal with the company, a lot of things will become available that aren't currently. So Adam asks, hey, any way to get a VTM Volume 2 available in a beta? I'm down for paying a few bucks now, pre-order coupon to get access to it. I don't mind paying people for their work. Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate that sentiment. But the simple answer is that the VTM Volume 2 Issue 1 is already available on the Storyteller's Vault. We've made it free for download at this time. It was released just before our team took over. As for issues 2 and 3, unfortunately, no. They will not be available in a beta beforehand. However, there are several previews that have been released by us already. Those are available at bynightstudios.com/blog. And there will be more previews released in the upcoming months. Chris?
The next question is, are you planning on expanding more of the passive enlightenment? The blurbs in the book are small and really do not explain how those paths can or should be played. I can give you the short answer of yes. We do intend to expand more on the passive enlightenment, and we hope to do that in the soon to be upcoming releases for Vampire.
I think broadly, we want to focus on how things can be played as opposed to how they should be played in the circumstances of the paths. It was a design choice to make them have a very kind of tight mechanical effect on the beast rate system and on the humanity system of the game. And where we're not looking to use the rules to limit folks' ability to roleplay and roleplay the stories that they want to tell. So I'm supposed to ask for any last questions. We'll take one or two more.
Looks like we have a few questions coming in. The question that's come in is, are there any plans to at least optionally decouple the generation background from the age of a vampire? Currently, a newly embraced child of an Ancilla, for example, has to pay an XP cost, but is by age only a neonate. Sure, you could use something like a lesser generation, but that seems kind of weird. Also, why are the generation background dots leveled named after Camarilla status? Again, it mixes generation and sect/status. So on the answer to the second question as to why the generation background dot levels are named after Camarilla status, I don't know if that was so much the intent as to those titles to link them to status, so much as the idea of those classifications that happen to have been later adopted by the Camarilla as status. Unfortunately, we were not involved back then when those decisions were made, so we really can't answer that question. But I don't believe the intent was to say that it was to mirror them after Camarilla status, as opposed to having those titles have existed and then being adopted by the Camarilla.
Okay. I think it was just the custom. If I remember Laws of the Night correctly, they were listed like that in there as well, or maybe it was both sides of it. I think it was just intended for the 5-dot system to be able to encapsulate down to the 6th generation without them having to exceed the 5 dots of background being the maximum. For example, you can still play a 10th generation vampire by taking 9th gen and then the lesser gen flaw. Going to do small MET journals like back in the day. I think that would be very wise of us to be thinking about that, but I don't have anything to announce at this time with respect to it. I'm going to jump to another one. I know you love Mage. Yes, I do. What is the game plan for creating the BNS Mage book? Is there an approach you have toward it that would be unique? So I do love Mage. I will not announce a BNS Mage book at this time. I can only say that I think that it's a concept that requires a lot of thought to how it would be presented and put together, and we will need a very skilled developer to get to that point. How long, roughly, will the extras for backing Changeling take to ship? I can't wait to rock around in my Changeling shirt, mask, and Kiasid pin. Well, that's a wonderful question. My understanding is that we are already shipping the extras, and they should have gone out this week. So the answer should be, if not already, then very, very soon. Will there be events for Changeling that are BNS backed? Will there ever be a Canadian branch that hosts BNS sponsored events? I think that there will be. I think that one of the things that could help us would be having some ideas of what to name it. We have Blood and Betrayal and then Rage and Retribution. So theoretically, it needs to be glamour and something. I would like to see what people's thoughts are on that. Let me just kind of wrap us up here with a general concept about what kind of our goal leading By Night Studios is. You know, this is a game that has had a tremendous impact upon my life, upon Chris's life, upon every member of our team's life. It's a game that's existed for nearly as long as I personally have been alive. And I want nothing more than to see this game, which has had this tremendous impact on my life, to exist, to thrive for the next 30 plus years to come. That's the goal with what we approach everything in By Night Studios. Is how do we build a company that can continue to support this hobby, which I think is the best, most fun hobby in the world going forward. And I think with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to participate in this Ask Me Anything. This is our first time doing it, and thank you, Chris, for taking the time to join us, and Elise for taking the time to feed us questions. If anybody has any additional questions, always on the Discord. I'm always here, and would love to talk with you more.
All right, everybody, and thank you again all for joining us. I know since this is our first event, we had a bit of a rough patch there with some technical difficulties in the middle. I am going to try and edit as much as I can together, probably either the rest of tonight or tomorrow, to get a video up on our YouTube page, which you can find through our Facebook, of course, or just Googling, By Night Studios YouTube. So for those of you who had a hard time listening or it cut out partway through, there should be some form of video feed for you all to check out later at a later time. But this wraps up our Ask Me Anything event this time. I hope that we can have more of this in the future. And don't forget to invite more of your friends here to the By Night Studios Discord community so that we can have more of these events and more excitement. Thank you so much again for everybody joining, and have a good night.